Hi, I'm Leanne Ely. I'm a nutritionist, a New York Times best-selling author, and some people even say I'm a life coach. I started the Daily Dish Show to share my story, my truth, and my journey to vibrancy, and to inspire others to do the same. Because it's all about grit, perseverance, and finding a way despite the odds. It's about embracing the whole woman, not just the parts that are easy to love, and feeding her heart, mind, body, and soul. But I found that this isn't just my story, it's your story too. It's go time. This is the Daily Dish. But let's talk about what our future selves are all about, because this concept of future self I love, because what it's doing is going to tap into your imagination. It's going to tap into the heart of and soul of who you are and what you want to be. I just want to say this: you're not too old, it's not too late, and everything is within reason and everything is within grasp for you, for me, and for everyone else. Isn't that so good to know? And that's why we're going to talk about this today, because I want to really talk and get into the weeds of what the visual is all about and how we get to that place, because our future selves depend on it. We can never just say, we can never just say, well, if it happens, it happens. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. Well, sure, we can. We can do that. But how much satisfaction has that brought to you? How much satisfaction has that brought to the table for you? There's my girl, Terry. Good to see you, Terry. Our future selves depend on a very vibrant vision, a vibrant vision that you hold of yourself, of what it is that you want, how it is that you want to be living, how you want your container to look, how you want your mind to be thinking, and even where you live. All of these things can come into play when we understand that it's up to us to create that visual. Nobody else is going to take that on. Nobody else is going to say, hey, Terry, you want to give me your visual? Tell me what your visual is so I can take it on, so I can emote over it, so I can carry the burden of it for you. It's Terry's. I've got mine. You've got yours. We've all got our visuals. And what I'm strongly suggesting is that when we start thinking about what our future self is, the more that we can put our focus and our energy on that, and the less we put our focus and our energy on the things that we don't want, which is usually where we do what we do. Oh, I do this and I do that. And then we get online and we start bitching about it and saying, oh, I'm doing this and I'm doing that. Anyone help? Anyone can relate? And we want all the misery to come. We invite the misery. We knock on the universe's door and say, anybody else out there miserable that would like to join in my bitch fest? Sorry, but there's just no other word for it. That's exactly what it is. Complain, complain, complain. And here it is, dole it out, And when we do that, we get exactly what we put out there. And then we say, see, but what about if we change it all about and we start instead with the vision of what it is that we want and put the energy toward that and just cut down and stop all the nonsense? What if we did that? What if we said enough is enough is enough? What if we handled this the same way that we would handle a vacation? Now follow me. When we decide to go on a vacation, we plan the place. We don't sit there and get online and say, hey, I'm going to Paris, but I want to talk about how much I didn't like Guadalajara in Mexico. I want to talk about all of that. I want to shred the place. I want to talk about the horrible hotel we stayed into. I want to talk about the horrible service. I want to talk about how I got sick on the water. Do we do that? Or aren't we planning a trip to Paris? Don't we want to talk about the Eiffel Tower? Don't we want to talk about the Louvre? Don't we want to talk about things that we actually want to do because that's where we're going? Or do we want to go back and start rehashing that trip? How much sense does that make? How is that going to make a difference for the trip to France? You're following me, right? So what we do then with a vacation is we plan that thing out, don't we? From front to center to back and all around. We plan that thing out like no one's business because we don't leave things to chance when we're on a trip, especially in a foreign country. We need to know, when are we going? When are we coming home? We need to know, how are we going to get there? Right down to, how are we going to get to the bloody airport? Are we going to have somebody drive us? Are we going to drive? Are we going to Uber? Are we going to have a shuttle? There's lots of questions. There's lots of details. There's lots of things that we need to look at. But if we don't lay it out and we're just try to wing it and say, well, let's see how it all goes, we're going to have a pretty miserable trip. Nothing planned. Have you ever tried to go to the Louvre? Have you? You need tickets to go there. You got to plan for that, right? Or the other day we met with, it was Tuesday, we met with our skincare guy. And he's our formulator and brilliant guy, and just love him and his wife. We just become really good friends. And we had a lovely dinner at this lovely restaurant in Asheville, and laughed and laughed and laughed and laughed and laughed. And I will tell you though, I made those reservations 2 weeks ago. And they were early, like early bird reservation. I had to make them 2 weeks ago because you can't just pop into a restaurant these days. It's got to be planned for. Exactly. So this year for the holidays, we went to Mark's family up in upstate New York. And, we had a plan for that. We had a plan on the day we're going to leave. We had a general time, we wanted to leave in the morning. Duh. That's when everybody wants to leave. We knew how long it was going to take. We knew we were going to have to stop and do something, get some hotel accommodations along the way with a dog, by the way. We knew that. We knew that we were going to be eating meals on the road, and we knew that we weren't going to be doing takeout and drive through and all that other garbage. And so we brought a cooler. So there was a plan in place there so that we knew what it was that we were going to do. And then we also had another plan for it after we got to our destination so we could get home. Same kind of a thing. We kind of reverse engineered it. So even when you're planning a small trip or even a big trip to somewhere spectacular, you line up your plans. You get them in place, and you stay focused on the place that you want to go to. You're not talking about the stuff that you didn't want to go to, places you don't want to go to, or places you've been to in the past. You don't get stuck there. How's that going to affect your plans for the future? How are you going to get to your destination if all you can talk about, how do you get to Paris if all you can talk about is Guadalajara and what a horrible trip it was? It's not going to get you there. That's the key. You follow where I'm going with all of this? This is how it is. When Mark and I went to Italy a few years ago, we had plans. We did a big cruise, and we had plans right down to the wire. We had museums that we were going to go to. We had walking tours in Rome, and we had all kinds of stuff that we were doing. And it was all planned out because there was a number of things we wanted to see, and we wanted to see the Italian countryside. So there were twists and turns, of course, and something always came up and something happened. We missed a train, almost didn't get back to the boat. There were things that happened. It didn't stop us, however, from continuing on with our trip to Italy. Because we almost missed the boat, do you think we said, oh, forget about it, let's just go to the airport and go home? Are you following me? So this is how it is. This is exactly how it is. To this day, I can still smell the delicious food walking in Rome into this lovely restaurant that we went to. I can still see the ruins. I can still, hear the rustle of the trees of the wind blowing when we were there, and the beauty of it and the heat. I remember that because it was in September. I can see and feel and smell the whole trip, and it was a trip of a lifetime. But in the small trip that we made to Liverpool, New York, small little village really outside of Syracuse, New York, they both required a vision. They both required planning, and they both required the willingness to make the very first step, to take the very first mile so that we could keep going, so that we could eventually get to our destination. That's how it works. And I will tell you something, road trips are arduous. You know that. I mean, I'm just not a fan. I'm also not a fan of sitting on a plane going someplace. It's the destination that I'm interested in, though. And you can make it a little bit more interesting. You can make it fun, but it's going to take some time. Eric Ries said, a pivot is a change in strategy without a change in vision. Sometimes we have to pivot, right? Sometimes we have to pivot. The vision doesn't change, but we change and we pivot in order to get to our destination. Because sometimes you almost miss the boat like we did. Sometimes you missed your reservation in Florence to go see David. True story that broke my heart. But it happens. So what do? Instead, you go and you walk and you go to this church over here and you see and you feel and you experience the beauty of Italy anyway, right? Without that. So I think we have to look at a couple of things because Eric also said this. He also said, think big, but start small. And that's exactly that's what a trip is. You think big, but you got to start small. You got to get on that airplane. You got to get into the airplane, right? It's starting small. It's starting small. So little things mean big changes over time, though. It's little things. It's 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. It's 5 hours later, 8 hours later, and you land in Venice. And then you get on your boat and you're experiencing Italy. It takes a minute. It takes a lot of doing, but eventually you get there. And I would like to say that I believe that in our vision and when we are creating our future selves, we have to understand it's not trashing your whole self and saying, I'm just a complete mess. I've got to start over. It's making those little tiny changes, taking that one small step, getting in the car, having the plan laid out and seeing it to the end. Because even with the pivots, it takes consistency and it takes persistence. So a couple of little things mean big changes over time. Like, for example, changing from black coffee from your pudding coffee with all the creamer and, with God knows what it's in there and the sweetener and all that other kind of stuff. You change from that to black coffee, you're going to get rid of a whole bunch of inflammation and probably high blood sugar. Stopping the snacking, you're going to finally start to see that one small act of stopping snacking, which is just really a bad habit and another word for mouth entertainment, you'll find that snacking, when we stop the snacking, we start to get our hunger hormones in place because they haven't had to act before. They're just sitting there dormant, not knowing what to do because there's constantly food in your system. So that's a big deal, right? And that helps to build a future self that you're trying to build. And by intentionally moving instead of sitting all day, not only are we going to add 15 years to our life, by the way, you sit all day, it's 15 years off your life. Did you know that? Sitting is smoking. It's the new smoking. So we got to stop that. We have to start getting up, setting our alarms on to get up and move our bodies. That doesn't mean we're out there running marathons. It means we're just simply moving it and taking the dog for a walk. Eating when you're hungry, stopping when you're satisfied, that puts you in control. That is, to me, was one of the biggest pieces of control, the biggest highlights in understanding what it is to be an intuitive eater. And that's my whole goal, is to teach you how to be an intuitive eater so you stop obsessing about your weight, your size, what it says on the scale every morning, and what you're going to eat and all of that. And understand it does take a plan. It does take a vision for what you want, but it also is small changes every single day done consistently to get you there to Italy or Liverpool, New York, wherever it is that you're going. So remember that, yeah, you don't have to run a marathon and you don't have to eat horrible cardboard food that tastes awful. You just have to learn how to cook a few things deliciously using some herbs and spices. And gosh, we can help you with that. We got all kinds of stuff all over the website. You don't have to take a 2-week vacation in order to finally relax. You just need a 5-minute meditative practice in the morning. You need to learn how to breathe and how to bring yourself down and to be present with yourself. You don't need to feel good to smile at a stranger to make yourself feel good, by the way. This is body chemistry all working. Little tiny things add up. They accumulate, and life is a cumulative effect. It is. It's an accumulative effect, and that cumulative effect is also one of the creators of momentum. And momentum is everything, because momentum is the thing that keeps the ball moving down the field. It's huge. Small actions taken daily will create the exact vibrant life that you want. Sometimes you're going to have to pivot. Sometimes you're going to have to see something differently. You remember that story? I told this, gosh, I don't know how many years ago. It was probably a couple of years ago. I told the story of David, of Michelangelo's David, and how he created it. Well, I dug a little deeper on this, and it's fascinating, interesting information. And that is that the statue was commissioned to another artist named Agostino in 1464. And, he started chipping away at it, and then he just quit. He quit. And then another artist named Rossellino took over. And guess what he did? He complained about the quality of the marble. And he quit too, after a little chip away. This was, I think, in 1474 is when he did. That was 10 years later. And then in 1501, this is when Michelangelo was commissioned. He was 26 years old, kind of not known, kind of just this, guy. And he was given 2 years. Finish the project in 2 years is what they told him. Well, 3 years later, he finally did. In 1504, it was done. And they moved it. They were going to have it originally on a cathedral, somewhere on a cathedral, but it was too big, too heavy. And if you notice, his hands are extraordinarily extra big. And it was done this way, according to Michelangelo, so that when you're looking up, everything looked in proportion. I thought that was so interesting because it's a huge statue. So one of the things that I love is some of the quotes that came out of Michelangelo. And he said, "I created a vision of David in my head and carved away everything that was not David." And I want to ask you, are you carving away everything that is not the vision that you have for your future self? You have the ability to do that. You are the artist. You are the sculptor of your own life. You have the tools, you have the materials, you have the support system, you have the place to do this. You have the place to do this. And bit by tiny bit, that is how Michelangelo created the masterpiece that thousands of years have been revered by people all over this earth, all over this earth. And I want to tell you one other thing that I just think is so fabulous. You remember we were talking about this yesterday. I think it was yesterday. And I said, I am a lifetime learner. That was one of my goals. It's one of the things. It's how I perceive myself. It's why I buy all the books that I am. I mean, all of it, right? This is Michelangelo's last words. I'm still learning. Mimi says she's crying with joy. That made me cry too. I'm still learning means that you are the artist, you are the sculptor, you have the capability, the ability, all the abundantness of what God Himself has given you, uniquely yours. Because remember, you are wonderfully and amazingly and abundantly made in the image of God, created on purpose and for purpose, an artist, a visionary. And He's given you your life to perfect your craft, your life to perfect your own craft. We plan in detail, but we plan always, just like Michelangelo, based on a vision for what we want to happen. And it's not just meeting a weight loss goal. It's not just doing one thing or getting to one place. It's the journey. It's what teaches us. I'm still learning. as you're on your deathbed. The more vibrant the vision, the more consistent we tap into the vision, the more actions will begin to create our own masterpieces in our lives, out of our lives. Chipping away, however long it takes, because honestly, your life is worth it. You're worth it. Your future self depends on it. And those little eyes that are looking at you right now, who are seeing what you're doing with your life, they're going to emulate you too. We have a great responsibility to show up in our lives and to create and to be a visionary and to be the artisan behind that big old slab of marble that is your life. What are you going to do with it? Thanks so much for joining me today. It was fun. Peace be with you. Thank you for joining me today. You can find me on TikTok for daily tips to help support your most vibrant life. And remember, you are the author of your own story. Until next time.